Let's consider that. Alright, so I'm Serathin, and this is commissioning for fun and profit. I've ran this one a couple of times before. I try to vary up a little bit. I've been a commissioned writer for about 7 years now, and now I'm a full-time commissioned writer for about 2. So I've been doing this for quite a bit, and to people who kind of just start doing this, it's a little daunting. You're taking something that you might be doing just as a hobby or just as kind of a part-time thing, and you're taking money for it. So that's involving a whole other person and a whole other aspect. It's definitely not the same as just kind of doing it for yourself or producing something to sell, like a book or art. How many artists do we have in the room? Here, we got 2 artists, writers. Got 2 writers. Any exactly fursuit makers got fursuit makers. So it's all really the same. There are some specifics that happen to each person. A writer will have a different set of problems than the artist, but generally, the advice I try to give here is for kind of a general wholesale. So when it comes to starting, like first day, you think to yourself, I'm pretty good at this, or someone tells you should sell this, or something like that. You have to make sure that on that day 1, you've already done like a couple of months of preparation. It's the more you do in the back, the more you do beforehand, the easier time you're going to have once you start your day 1. If you just come in fresh with, you make your FA profile or whatever you decide, Twitter profile, and like, all right, I'm open for commissions. You're going to have a very hard time. No one's going to really approach you or trust you for that. The more you have as kind of your portfolio, per se, is going to help you. I was writing for about 3 years before I even started taking commissions, and I had quite a bit of a portfolio. And besides the fact that people know that you actually do write and you're not just some person that's trying to take their money, it comes with a couple of added benefits. The first one is people kind of know what to expect from you. When I started, I wrote a lot of TF stuff. I like writing transformation and branched into a couple of other things. But when I started opening for commissions, the people who were already watching me, my audience, were into transformation as well. Obviously, otherwise why would they be watching me? So when it came to commission time, and I did kind of start attracting people from that pool, when they asked me what would you like me to write, I got a lot of, I want a TF of this or that or this. And it's like, well, that's what I do. So, it's always good to have a good audience. It doesn't have to be a huge audience. You don't have to have 1,000 or 2,000 or 5,000 people. You can start with, even just 100 or a couple hundred. And as you start with your commission, it's going to be a kind of entirely different beast. So I know like the backlog will help, but it's not going to be a cure-all for everything. There will be some transitional pains when it comes from that. You have somewhere where you're first just being an artist or a writer, but now you're transitioning to a commissioned writer, and you think that's not going to be much of a difference, but you're kind of building yourself up from scratch again. It would be like if an artist decided to be a writer. That's a completely different skill set. They're going to, their base might be like, that's weird, but and if you add it on, then they're like, oh, well, we'll see where this goes. But when you're doing writing or art or anything else to commissioned blank, it's kind of the same thing. You are now entering into a whole new realm of, things that you have to kind of consider. So your audience will probably kind of be like, feeling you out again. It's the same as if you had no one there whatsoever. You're trying something new. They're a little wary of that. You're probably going to have to price yourself a little low. The thing is, I always see he heard me saying that it's going to be a little low. He's like, no, I want to make money. And he ran away. But no, you're going to have to price yourself a little low, but be careful with that. I'm wary about giving that kind of advice because the problem is in the fandom for all across the board, we undercharge for a lot. The services I offer and this is after working in the commission field for about 5 years. I can be making 6 times that if I go into an actual like industry where I would write for that, you know. And I'm pretty up there. I'm actually, I can't say I'm the lowest anymore. I just recently did a price range, but for the longest time I was the lowest charging writer, and I was charging about $100. Now I'm charging about $100 for 5,000 words. You're not going to get that for your starting out. I had to start at $10 for 5,000 words, and depending on your skill though and your involvement, and once you start churning out that product, once you like take a commission stamp, you got it, you know, you give it back, you start building up that commission status as well as your other stats. So people will be like, oh yeah, you know, word of mouth is your best friend and your worst enemy, but it's your best friend where it's, you know, someone's like, oh yeah, I got a commission from Serathin, I got this story from him, it was great, he did it in 2 weeks, blah blah blah, and then it's like, oh well, then I'm going to go do that same thing. Or they see something I post, like how do I get something like that? So it's definitely a growing experience. You have to kind of start over, which sucks, but you know, eventually, and especially if you got that backlog, it doesn't last forever, and it can actually grow pretty quickly. Also, be wary, as long as we're talking about pricing stuff, about freebies. I would stay away from them. And the one reason that I give for, and it's not saying you can't do like a raffle, you know, give away something as a raffle, or give something away like, oh, I hit 1,000 followers, I'm going to give, you know. When you give something away for free, people will then forever and ever expect you to do it again. They will wait. People are cheap, people are patient, especially when it comes to that first one. So if you give away something for free, especially if you give away a bunch of stuff for free, then they're going to be like, why would I have to pay for it? I'm just going to wait for you again. I'm wanting for free. Or even worse, you'll get the people who like note you. It's like, hi, I see that you got like $20 for 5,000 words, but hey, I know you did some freebies. Can I get a freebie? You're going to get a lot of that. You're going to want to avoid that. So my advice, if you're just starting out, is to stay. It seems like such a great option. I give away some stuff for free, word of mouth, stuff like that. You know, but that's exposure, and you can die from exposure. So that's the biggest thing I think about when it comes to exposure. If anyone ever asks you, "Oh, can you do it for exposure?" It's never worth it. Even the people with 50,000 watchers or 50,000 followers, if you do something for them, people are going to look at it and go, "Neat." Now I'm going to watch the person I'm actually watching for that has 5,000 or 50,000 watchers. So be wary of freebies. And also be wary of undercharging yourself. Again, you're going to have to be a little low in the beginning, but adjust the prices as necessary, especially if you're busy. If you find yourself with a full queue, and you constantly finding yourself with a full queue, that's a sign. Raise your prices. People are really super interested. And I have found this. If as you raise your prices, some people will fall off. But the quality of the commission you get is going to be so much better because they're paying more for it. If you're just like, yeah, $10 for a commission, they're going to be like, I got $10 here, draw a Subway sandwich, eat fresh, or something like that. And you're going to get some weird, ridiculous stuff because it's $10. They can throw $10 at a stupid idea, but if you're charging like $25, $30, they're going to think about it. They're going to want to make sure they get their money's worth, and that's good for you because when they expect quality, you can give them quality. If they're expecting nothing, then you're just wasting your time. So make sure that pricing is probably one of the hardest things. I don't even think it's the most important thing, but it is one of the hardest things to kind of do when you're a commissioned writer because that's kind of what you get a little anxious. If I raise it $10, will I lose all my people? Will I just not have a commission queue? Stuff like that, and it's trial and error. You might go too fast, or you might do what I did and stick around at a very low price point for a very long time. But especially if you're going to do it full time, you need to start looking at cost of living and stuff like that, and then measure it against your work. Because if you're charging $10 a pop and your rent's $500. You're going to have a bad time. There's only so much capacity you can do as a commissioned writer, and if you're not charging enough, I've seen many artists and many a commissioned writer who has to open for emergencies or stuff like that because they were undercharging or they weren't prepared for that. I'm super lucky. My mate has a job, so she's got the bedrock income. I make the variable income, so I can do stuff like this, go cons and sell. We had to arrange that. We talked about it for about 9 months. I actually worked as a quality control inspector up until that point. It was good money. I was making a decent amount. But I really wanted to do this. And we talked and we were planning everything down to if she has her job, how much this. Planning is fantastic. If you plan and you have yourself a schedule and a budget and everything like that, you're going to go far. Don't over-plan, because if you're going to wait for the perfect time, you're never going to start. Never. Those 9 months, I could probably start earlier, but I was a little worried. It helped that I had a douchebag manager kind of push me on my job, but it's a very daunting experience to go out there and depend on others for money. I used to depend on a company for money. They would sign my check, I would go in 9 to 5, punch in, punch out, forget about my work until the next day. As a commissioned writer, especially a full-time commission writer, you do not have that luxury anymore. All of your time is now work time. So going from money to the other important part of that equation, time, because time is money, that has never been truer for a commissioned person. Your time is pretty much money at this point. Everything you do, and it's not just the writing aspect. A lot of people who go into commission work, whether it's writing, drawing, fursuit, etc., they think, I keep making X product and I get X money. That's not true. You do have to make X product. That is a very important part. If you're not making X product, then you're not being anything. But there's so much more to that, because you have to make X product, you have to manage the business orders for X product, you have to put out the advertising for X product, you have to manage the customers for X product. There's a lot more behind the scenes, which is why, again, we criminally undercharge ourselves, because everyone looks at it, it's it took, especially unfortunately for suit makers, sorry, but you have people look at it it's fur, scissors, glue. I know it's not glue. Stuff like it could be, and stuff like that. Why is this $1,500? It's it takes 50 hours to make, and I have to put it out there, shipping, stuff like that. So you have to make it clear, this is what my prices are for. This is what my prices are about, because my time is valuable. I worked at that when I was in my first 2 years. With all the stuff I had to do before, after I was my own editor, I was making $2 an hour. That, and that's an unlivable wage. And you can't do that to yourself. You especially can't do that to yourself, because then you go on burnout, which I'll explain in a little later. But you have to make sure that you are treating yourself just as well as you're treating your customer, because only you can do that. Your customer will not, I shouldn't say this, your customer will treat you well a lot if you have a good customer. If you have a bad customer, they're going to treat you like garbage. You treating yourself well will help prevent a customer from taking advantage of you. And speaking of taking advantage, I can go right into this next part. But beforehand, does anyone have any questions about the money or the time aspect of commissions? No, it's been perfect. All right, so moving on. Protecting yourself. You will run into bad customers. That is just a fact of life. And it's effervescent. It's in every writing, drawing, fursuit making, etc. There are a couple ways to protect yourself, and you have to protect yourself when it comes to this. Don't ever leave yourself open to anything, because if there's a loophole and you get a bad customer, they're going to take advantage of it. Most of the time you get good customers. 95% of the customers I've ever commissioned for me, thumbs up. I would take one from them again. Good working relationship. The 5%, those are the ones you gotta protect yourself from. First things first. Day 1, or even day 0, a TOS will save you every time. Terms of service. You have to look at that. That is your force field, your shield, when it comes to protecting you against any kind of bad elements. A terms of service is something that doesn't have to be terribly fancy. You don't have to go to a lawyer. If you want to, you can. Mine is also a paralegal, which was very convenient for me. But, you know, and I come from a family of lawyers, but so mine looks a little more lawyery. It's a little more contractual, things like that. You don't need a big fancy contract though. All you need to say is, in the terms of this is the words I write, you will pay me the money, I will give you the words, and if something extraneous happens, here's what the clauses are for it. So, you know, you have refund clauses, you have, you know, with money clauses, I always like to take the money first. I'm a very much a cost upfront kind of guy. Mainly because that puts the pressure on me then, not the customer. I'm not sitting there writing but wondering if I'm going to get paid for this. Because the first 2 times I did this, I got stiffed for a $10 commission. People. But, like, you know, I take the money first. Some commissioners are like, no, man, I can never do that. Some take half and half, which is also perfectly acceptable. I take the money from because, again, it just keeps me safe. I don't have to worry about, you know, someone, here you go, or holding the product and be like, all right, now give me the money. Like, I don't want to give you the money. Or maybe, like, take 10 bucks. Like, that just stops that cold. I've already got your money. I can just, here you go, and, you know, deliver the thing, and we're all good to go. But if you are a person who likes to take the money after, put the terms in the TOS. Like, you have to pay me this within X days, or bad things happen. Usually that's good enough. I've never had to sue anyone or anything like that. But it's always good to have that in there. It's a good reminder for them as well. You're serious, you're a professional. The refund clause, that helps you in case someone's like, oh, I don't want this anymore. Can I have my money back? And you go, I've already worked on it, you know, like, or an artist, like I have like the first 8 layers, or 1,000 words, or I ordered the fur, you know. A refund clause will definitely help you for them to, in case they get disgruntled and want their money back, or for you to keep them from, you know, just making a BS claim. It is not a forever thing, though. It's, you have a statute of terms, and basically, because I've seen artists and I've seen writers do this, where it's 2, 3, 4 years later, and it's like, where's my commission? It's like, I didn't start it. And they go, well, I want refunds. Like, no refunds. That sucks. You can't do that. After a reasonable amount of time, they can ask for a refund. Reasonable, that's up for debate. Usually it's like a year. After that, most places are like, no, they waited long enough. Like, where's your stuff? Especially if they show that they promised a different time. But it's definitely still good to have. I do have a refund clause in mine. I have, you know, I have a money clause even though I take mine up front just in case. Like, you gave me the money. I'm not a bank. I'm not going to just give it back to you. And I've had that, so many times. Like, before I had that clause in there, I had not, like, I would get a little IMs, like, you know that thing I paid for a week ago? Like, did you start that yet? And I'm like, no, I told you I'm going to start it in, like, a couple days. Like, can I get that money back? I had something come up. And I flat out told people, no. No, you already paid for it. Like, can you do that at a Shopko or a Walmart and go up there and be like, I bought this thing, but I don't need it anymore, you know, I would like it back, or, you know, give it back to you and give me my money. You're not bank. Do not hold money for people just because they might want it back. If they give you money for a thing, then they have paid for that thing. And, you know, you don't have to worry about, you know, you might feel bad. I've given back because I got in a sob story from a friend, and it's like, and like, got in a car accident, and I'm like, that's bad, you know. I'll give it to you. I haven't started yet. I'll give it to you. That's totally fine too. I'm not saying like be a hard ass and never give back money, but don't let anyone take advantage of you and be like, I'm not feeling it. Can I just have my money back and stuff like that? Because people will do that to you. Next on the TOS is the do not write list. Well, it's a do not write list for me. For artists, for suit makers, I don't think it as much applies, but for artists and writers especially, the do not write list is something that will help you avoid a lot of headaches. Because, as I said before, when I started this, I already had a base of about 2 or 3 years of writing. So when I got my commissions, I got stuff that I like to write, transformation, rubber, things like that. So I was pretty much fine with that. But then occasionally you get someone with like, hey, I know you do that. Like, I know you, it's kind of like Amazon. Like, I know you like transformations. Perhaps you may also like amputations. And I'm like, no. So when it comes to the do not write list, I thought like, I never got that one actually, but I did get a couple where it's like, no, not gonna do that. And I built my do not write list, and it has blood, water sports, scabs, stuff like, anything that I know for a fact that I would not even want to touch. And they'll still ask you occasionally, and that's when you point to the TOS like, no, see, there, fifth one, it's the thing you asked for, I don't do that. Okay. And they'll get tricky about it too. I actually had, and this is one of my favorite stories to tell about TOS and do not write lists, a person commissioned me for a pretty standard story. It was a fox and wolf go in a park, or no, two humans go into a park and then they turn into a fox and wolf under the full moon. I've written it a couple times before, it's pretty standard. I'm like, alright. And I was about to, like, 3 or 4 days passed by, I'm getting ready to write it, and I get another email. It's like, did you mind if, or did you start, I always get that, did you start writing it yet? That's when I always know they're going to start asking for shit. And it's like, no, I haven't started. It's like, oh, can I make a change? I'm like, yeah, sure, if it's not anything crazy, I'll go for it. And it's like, oh yeah, well, you know how I want the two main characters to be 18, 23, can you make them 14 and 16? And I went, no! I cannot do that. I specifically said there, no underage. And that is because A, I do not like it, B, I will go to jail, and C, I do not like it. So, and there is certain, other places where that's fine, stuff like that, but the FBI doesn't give a shit. In any case, I basically had to ultimatum, like, no, it's right here. TOS says it, so we have 2 options. 1, I give you back your money. 2, I write it as is before, and you can have the story and enjoy it. And he went for option 2, I wrote the story, he enjoyed it. And that was the end of that. So, it was a pretty easy resolution to that, but, they will try and get sneaky and slip stuff under, and normally, 9 times out of 10, it's not to be malicious, they're not being mean about it. They just want what they want, and they're going to try and get it. And even if you say, yep. But I haven't had a whole lot of interactions when it comes to my TOS and do not write list. Actually, I just remember, one important thing when it comes to the do not write list is be careful of the topics that you write about. And if you are not enthused about it, because I've written things where I wasn't enthused, but I was curious, like, maybe. And I wrote it, and sometimes like, yeah, alright, it's going in the will write section. Or something like, nah, it's not for me, I'm going to write, but do not write. Don't be afraid to turn down the commission, you're not going to hurt their feelings. They're just going to go somewhere else. It's very tempting to want to do it, because money. Everyone loves money. It's money. It gets you things, So when someone's flashing you some money and it's like, hey, you mind doing that? You'd be like, tempting. I might not like it, but I could power through. It's not worth it. 9 times out of 10, if you know for a fact you do not like this thing, it's not worth the $40 to sacrifice quality in order to write something or to draw something that you're not going to want to do. And the second problem with that is kind of the antithesis to the background. If you write something once, particularly of a sensitive subject, bestiality, stuff like that, like zoophilia, you will get 8 more requests the second that you post it. Even if you don't post it, you'll still get probably like 4. Because people are on the lookout for stuff like that. As soon as you show an interest in it, they'll be like, hey, he's doing that. I also want that. Yeah, and normally that's a good thing. Like I started doing, I did one for Fox Lightning. I don't know if anyone knows who Fox Lightning is. He's a big TF guy, and he also likes Paws. And that was one of my, I'll try it. And I liked it. It was, it wasn't like one of my, oh yeah, stuff, but it was enjoyable. And I posted it, and I got 1 or 2 others for Paws. I'm like, hey, here's some, generating a little more revenue. I'm getting a little more business. I got expanding my customer base. That was an example of that being a good thing. The bad thing is if, you put out a piece and it's something you don't like, and then 4 people come in, it's like, oh, I want this too, and then you have to deny 4 people instead of 1. And not only that, but then you start, that word of mouth. People are like, I wanted to get something from him, but he turned me down. I don't know why. Man. He's a jerk. I hate him. It's never that bad, but. So, that's pretty much it. I'm going to think about TOS. TOS, also, a lot of, some artists use it as a club. Kind of the refund policy that I was talking about before. They're like, no refunds. They kind of beat people over the head with it. It's not designed for that, or shouldn't be designed for that. It's designed to be a shield for you, but it also protects your customer. I have clauses in there that would screw me over if I didn't do what I was supposed to do, and I put that in there specifically to tell my customer, yeah, I know I'm asking some stuff of you, but I'm also going to show you that you can ask some stuff of me. It's a give or take, 2-way street, all that bull. And it definitely helps put people at ease, because you want your customer to be at ease. You don't want to be like constantly watching each other, like, what's he going to do next? Like, is he going to try and screw me there? Did he pay me? That's too much paranoia. I'm way too busy for that crap. You will be too, I guarantee it. So you definitely want to make sure that you have a good relationship, because not only does that mean that you can work in peace, but repeat business is fantastic. And if you do it well, and especially if you do a certain thing, transformation for me, you will get people who will come back to you time and time again. And the more kind of niche you are, the more those people will come back to you. With transformation and rubber, my 2 biggest things, there's probably 2 other writers or commissioned writers that also do it. So when someone wants something with rubber and TF, all the people are like, oh, go to Sarah. Like, I have a 1 in 3 chance of being mentioned in that particular pool. And if it's always good, then they're going to refer to me. And then they get one from me. It's like, oh, well, now I know where to get my TF and my rubber stuff. For artists, too, there are plenty of artists who make pretty decent living off of, like, rubber stuff. Tanrak and Ravensflock, Croft. They all pretty much do exclusively rubber, although they branch out from time to time. Rubber stuff and things like that, and I mean, Tamers makes a killing, but their art is also phenomenal. So, but you have to definitely make sure that you're on a good base with your customers, because they'll vouch for you. If you have a good customer base, like, that is the best thing that you can ever have, because if you open for commissions, if you have loyal customers, they'll always go you first. They may, if you're busy or you're full, they'll go over, but they'll always watch for you first. And there are people who will exclusively go to you if you did something that they like. That's all it takes is one time, and you've got a customer for life. I have probably 7 or 8 people who, if I open commissions, 1, I know that they're there. 2, I know what they want. To some extent, there'll be some variations to it, but I always know it's like, yeah, this one likes TF and rubber, this one's samples and stuff like that. Try not to be too adult, but and 3, I know that they'll always pay and that they'll always be good customers and be respectful and things like that. So those 3 reasons alone, a repeat customer is the best thing that you can get when it comes to being a commissioned whatever. But I was going to go transition to something else, and then I got into tangent repeat customers.
I imagine that having a repeat customer would also be beneficial for them and for you, because you also know they're trustworthy and you're trustworthy.
Exactly, and then it goes back to that reputation thing. They know for a fact that you will deliver on whatever it is that you're doing for them. You know, they can, it's the evil they know or the evil they don't. That's a bad way to describe it, but it's, yeah, I know, I know that this guy, no matter what, will get me what I want, or it's very unlikely they're going to stick me. Or I could go with this random unknown artist and be like, maybe. Which goes back to that first part. Unknown artists, generally not very well trusted, but yeah. Reputation is fantastic when it comes to repeat customers, and reputation in general is just really great to have. You know, you got to keep, you know, an open dialogue. You have to keep yourself up. You have to. And I do this for Twitch streaming too, which is a totally different thing, but when it comes to Twitch or commissioning or anything where you're out in the public, where you're selling a service, because you're doing something creative, it's a service. Yeah, I know they get a product at the end, but it's really a service industry. You have to be yourself, but you have to be the best version of yourself. Don't be a fake. Don't be like, oh yeah, I can totally do this. I'm always upbeat and blah, 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 blah. You know, they'll either see through it or you'll get sick of that shit really quick. The other thing is, if you're being yourself and you're being kind of like, oh, stupid, I hate this, I don't want to write it all, this sucks, which I've seen people do. I've seen, just on their Twitter, I look at okay, Jesus. People don't want to commission from those people because they don't even know if they're going to do it. And that, unfortunately, is you giving yourself a bad reputation. And I'm not saying you have to be all sunshine and smiles again, see figure one, don't be fake, but you generally have to kind of keep an upbeat persona. I'm not saying you can never, break down on Twitter or say something sad on Twitter, but definitely you have to keep it to where you're trying to be as professional as possible while not looking like some weird corporate drone. And that's kind of the weird thin line you have to walk being corruption. Holy crap, I write too much of that. A commission writer or commission anything is you have to be personal. You're not a company. You're not Amazon or something like that where they just here's my order, thank you, here is thing. You have to maintain a level of congeniality and openness. When it comes to things like Twitter, they can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy depending on how you use it. And the best way to think about it is, if you do it as a commission, you don't have to, I'm LLC, I'm incorporated, spent on two cars. But even if you're just a person, even if you're just, I'm Bill the Fox and I do art and stuff like that, that is your brand. You are Bill the Fox to those people. You are the artist. If you go up there and you start saying stupid shit all the time, you're going to drive away your customer base, and that is a very hard thing to fix. As a rule, and this is one of my hard and fast rules. People have told me to go shove it for this one. Do not get into any hard opinions while you are being a commissioned person, particularly in a very sensitive one that is of recent politics. Don't do it, please, for the love of God. The rule about politics is, whatever your opinion is, at least half of the population will hate you for it. And my best example is, if you go on there and let's say something about dogs, and I like dogs, half the population would be like, fuck you, I like cats. And then you get those people, and then you get the other people who are like, nah, reptiles are the best. And those are a small population, but they still, you're gonna piss people off, and you don't want to do that, especially when you're just starting out. I mean, I know there's people out there who make a living off it, but they're big and you are not. You are small. I am small, and I've been doing this for, 3 years, 2 years, full-time, blah, blah. But you're shooting yourself in the foot if you start doing stuff like that. And I want to see y'all succeed. So when it comes to Twitter, social media, stuff like that, keep it about your business, keep it about your artwork, keep it about, conventions, stuff like that. You can still have like, oh, opened a bakery, I'm going to get a sweet roll, stuff like that. You can, by all means, tweet about life and stuff like that. Just be very, very careful, because once you're labeled as something, that label will stick with you forever. And no matter what, it's like peeling a label off a plastic bottle. You can rip it off, but you're still going to get a whole bunch of it left. And it's hard, and especially hard nowadays. And it is a little like walking on eggshells. But if you do it right, then you're going to keep your base and stuff like that. For me, my general rule of thumb is don't ask me, because I'm not going to tell you. And that's perfectly fine. If someone's pushing you on that, just say, fuck off. I'm not going to risk what I've built here because you want to know if I like bagels. I know that's not a thing, but it might be boozy. But I'm not going to drive away half my base, and especially because that's not who I am either. When I want to commission things, unless you're being way out of the base, I'm a big supporter of Indiana Jones, if you know what I mean. But I don't want to have someone not come up to me because they're afraid I'm going to dig at them for something that they think I have and they don't, or difference of opinion. And that I spend more on this, as the years progress of this panel, I spend more and more time on this because this will kill you as a commissioned writer. I've seen it happen, and I've seen it happen more and more and more and more, and it's heartbreaking to see good artists and writers go down for something stupid that they said because they were angry or they want to scream into the void, which is all Twitter is, just screaming into the void. And I don't want to see that happen if I can help it. You can have opinions. You can be you can have strong feelings about things. But if you're a commissioned writer, no one wants to hear it. And likewise, you don't really need to say it. Find your own ways. I still do things for the stuff I believe in. I'm an environmentalist, I doing stuff like that, but I don't put that out there because I know there are some people who do not like environmentalists, and I want their money. But it really comes down to, when I think about it, it's is it worth it? Just think about that for yourself. Is it worth losing X amount of dollars because you want to be right? And to give an example, and this is the last example that I give because it's kind of the most heartbreaking, I'm on Patreon. Patreon is wonderful if you can manage it. It's also a huge pain in the ass, so it's that work versus reward. I saw someone's Patreon, they said some stuff on Twitter. I'm not going to go into what it was. They were at 4 digits, $1,000. In the matter of less than a month, they were down to $400. That was a $600 tweet or series of tweets, and they had to stop because they could no longer support themselves. So do not do that. And basically, just keep yourself safe. Keep your reputation in this game. The commission game is paramount. It's everything, both in your quality of writing and who you are. I like being a generally nice guy. I used to be an asshole. Back in my, I'm dating myself a little. I'm 33. I don't care who knows it. But back in my 20s, I was jaded. I was cynical. I was kind of a dick. I argued with everyone constantly. In my 30s, I don't give a fuck anymore. What is this panel rated? Who cares? Anyway, it's 5 o'clock on Sunday. They're not going to kick me out. But I don't care really, and it's very freeing. And I'm not saying I don't care in the aspect of I don't care about anything, but when it comes to what people say, just water off the duck's back. And you kind of have to have it segue again in this game because you will get people who will say mean things about your stuff. I mean, that's just if you're a writer or an artist. And unfortunately for artists, it's about 10 times as worse as writers. But you just have to kind of roll with the punches. It's one person's opinion, or sometimes you get 2 or 3 in a group. You can usually see them, they're like 12 numbers and a name and then like 3 letters. But if someone commissions you and then you give them a price and then they say, "Ugh, that's too expensive. I want cheap. Can you do it for $20?" Tell them no. Tell them you're worth more than that. Don't ever let the customer push you around. Always be amicable, but you are there for you are the one who has kind of the power. Yeah, they have money. So does everyone else on the fucking planet. You have the creativity. You have the service that they want. They want it. That is why they're coming to you. You didn't have to find them. They found you. And that is 100% commission. Yes.
Related to that, how easy or difficult is to be added or removed from like an artist beware list or that kind of thing?
Hard to get added onto. I'm not sure about removal. I do subscribe to 1 or 2 artist bewares. I do commission as well as commission.
I've never actually gone to any of those because I've only done like 1 or 2, or I've only gotten 1 or 2 commissions from other artists and that kind of thing.
As a commission, right, or as a commission, anything, you sometimes look at those 1 or 2 times like, my name right now? No, it's not. Usually those lists are pretty good, and the ones that don't, everyone thinks sucks anyways and they don't listen to. The Facebook Beware requires quite a bit of substantial proof. And once it's on there, even if like you work out, you just talk to the admin and you're like, "Hey, that guy, he's a dick," or "Hey, we had a problem, but I worked it out." And they're usually pretty good about it. I wouldn't worry too much about artist beware lists or stuff like that. Generally, when I look at them, those people on those lists deserve it. So, yeah, you're not like people aren't just going like, "I'm going to put this on there, ruin his life."
Most of the time, just So they're a dick.
Yeah.
Not actually the artist.
Right. Oh, and that gets called out all the time on those lists too. Like, "Oh, I know that guy. Like, he's the actual douchebag." And like, pull off the mask. Like, it was him all along. But, I wouldn't worry too much about block lists or artist beware lists or stuff like that. It is generally hard, especially when you're just starting out. If you suddenly grow huge and you're like, you got like 10,000 in commissions or 10,000 Patreon or something like that, then yeah, people might start being a dick because of how bigger they are. Also, this is kind of like next level like commission stuff, but if you ever get super huge on anything, there's always 2 things you get, and it's usually in this order. First thing, accountant. Second thing, lawyer. Those 2 things, when you start making the big time, don't forget who got you there. For when you make the big time, those 2 services are essential because taxes are a bitch, and so are people who want to, for some reason, involve you in legal stuff. Again, artists, unfortunately, they get it worse because they have takedowns and stuff that they have to deal with. It's very hard to steal a story. I'm not saying that people haven't done it once to me. And it's basically, I don't go too much into this, but it's basically you want someone to have your back when it comes to money because with taxes, it's actually a good thing to get into. I pay taxes as a corporation. I pay quarterly. And the reason I pay quarterly is because freelance taxing, especially around here in the United States, is a bitch. It's 30%. And I don't know why it's that, probably to prevent money laundering or something like that, but you do pay more, but you do get to write off more. So make sure everything and anything you use in this venture, you write down and present to whatever tax preparation person you use. I would highly recommend at least something. Don't do it yourself. It's very complicated. There is, because literally it's like, oh, I use my office for 60% work and 40%, just looking up stupid cat videos. So it's hard. So definitely, even if it's just HR block or something like that, they'll help you out. It's a little expensive. With everything I do, mine comes up to like $500 for preparation, but they keep me from going to jail. So, good trade-off. It's a good trade-off. You can't write much when you're in jail. So it's always good to have that. And quarterly taxes, you can pay all at once, but you're going to pay a lot. The first year I did pay I'll just pay at the end of the year, $7,500. I was prepared for it, but it's still kind of a kink in your wallet when you have to shell that out. Quarterly, I pay about $500, $600, $700, and then the rest of it's write-offs and stuff like that. And I'm hoping to break even. That's actually a new venture for me. But write-offs, anything you do while you're writing is a write-off. However, be prepared to explain it if you get audited. So don't just start willy-nilly, I went to lunch and I was thinking about writing, so that lunch is, don't go crazy, but like your computer, your office space, your electricity, your utilities, to a certain extent, stuff like that. If your office is in your home, then that's where you work. That's where you make your income. That's where you can write off. Depreciation, then you get into whole depreciation versus just taking the write-off at the first time, stuff like that. Your H&R person can explain it to you way better than me. So, but definitely make sure, this convention, I sold at dealer's time. Total write-off. Hotel, gas, food, mileage.
Nice.
It's one of the big reasons I do this for dealer's time, It's definitely, you want to give yourself every advantage in the game because you definitely have to have quite a bit of a hustle to do something like this. You have to hustle. This isn't for the faint of heart. You can't just get up, I'm going to work for a few hours and then play video games. Unless you're a Twitch streamer. That's exactly what you do. But you have to make sure that you're ready to put in the hours. I saw this once on Shark Week. An entrepreneur, which is what you are, an entrepreneur will work a 60-hour work week to avoid working a 40-hour work week. And that is basically, you are working for yourself to avoid having to work something you don't want to do. This is a passion-based business. If you're just doing this for the money, I am sorry I wasted the last 15 minutes of your time. Because whether you're writing art first thing, if you're just doing to write, you will burn out faster than anything I've ever seen. It has to have some passion behind it. I'm passionate about writing. I love writing. I love when people get my writing and read it, and all the emotions associated with that. I get that as a payoff because your monetary payoff it's going to start kind of getting jaded after a while. That money again, it's you start thinking I could make $1,000, $2,000 a month working at XYZ, or I could be working here and making. I think at one point I was making $300 a month. And, it's definitely, but then I think, but I love doing this. It's what I love to do. And I'm good enough at it that I can support myself. And, that, here comes the hard stuff. This is the stuff I don't like talking about because I don't like ruining things for people. If I wanted to do that, I'd just talk to my mom. But sometimes you're just not going to be good enough to do it as a community. Definitely then keep it as a hobby, but if you're not good enough if you're not getting the commissions and you're down to bare bottom prices and you're starving and you're about to lose your job about to lose your house or stuff like that, you got to reevaluate and probably get out of the game. And it sucks. I wish everyone could be successful at what they can do. I really do, because there are some people that are talented, but they just can't make it. They can't write enough, or they can't write good enough, or it's usually either quality or quantity. I've rarely seen it unless they do some stupid shit on Twitter or something like that. It's usually a quality versus quantity thing. But don't be afraid to try something else. Don't be afraid. If writing's not your thing and you still want to do it, try comic writing. Try something different, adapt. You don't necessarily have to quit completely, but you might have to get a job and do commissions for a while. And try, right now, 3 years ago, up to a year ago, I was just a commission writer. That's all I did. I write stories, give to people. Occasionally I would publish a book. Now, for my Patreon and stuff like that, I'm a commissioned writer, I am a game developer, I am a comic writer, and I'm also a Twitch streamer. So diversifying your income streams is a huge help, especially passive income.
Oh, yeah.
Passive income is your best friend on the planet because all you have to do is set the thing out into the world, let it do its thing. It will collect the money for you, and then you don't have to worry. That is what my books are for. That is what I do YouTube. I don't make money off it, but if you're a YouTube, I have YouTube stuff, and there's nothing wrong with YouTubing the thing you are doing. I Twitch writing. Like, I would have thought no one would have ever watched that in a million years. Like, watch these work. Oh, shoot, thank you. Thank you so much. But, like, I will set up my Twitch stream and be like, I'm writing. Come if you want. And people will come, and they'll talk with me, and I'll write and talk with them. And I'll get more people than sometimes the games I stream. And that Twitch is not passive income, but it is income for me. I get about $100. It's not earth-shattering amounts of money, but when you want to get something and you got that $100, it feels pretty good. So that's me diversifying. I have my commissions. I do Hell Weeks and stuff like that, and then I also have Twitch, and then I also have my books. And then once I release this game on Steam, I'll have the game, and then. Not only is that monetary income, that is also reputation income too. I mean, you put out a great product, people buy that product. Not only did you not have to interact with them at all, but you also just you possibly gain yourself a new customer just because they saw you randomly, just out of the blue. I want a book about dragons turning into things and adult stuff. They put that all into Amazon's little algorithm, like that's specific. Here's a book, and then it's my book, and they get the book. I didn't have to talk to that person for a second. Amazon did it for me. But out of that, they might be like, this guy is actually pretty good. Let's see what else he's got. So, diversified streams of income is paramount. I mean, you can just be a commissioned blank, but it'll be way easier if you're a commissioned blank and whatever else you can fill your time with. If you just do commission blank work as well, you also run the risk of burnout. And with the last couple of minutes, burnout is something that happens to everyone. And with the commission work, it is twofold. Because not only, if you are just a regular hobbyist and you're just writing or drawing for yourself, you can just walk away from it, take a break, play a game, do something like that. If you're a commissioned writer, artist, fursuit maker, there is someone out there in your in your mind there's someone out there waiting on you, depending on you, and that ramps the stress up to about 11, and it can kind of wear on you. And I've had people where I go to, I'm like, I'm so sorry, this is this is late, I can't, and they go, whatever, it's fine. It's like I waited an extra week and I got started. So a lot of times your customers will be fine with it. They'll usually tell you if they're not. Communication is also very key. Make sure you keep communication with your customers, because there's no worse thing you could do to a customer than ignore them. If you ignore them, then they start filling in the blanks of what you are doing, rather than you telling them, oh, sorry, I was going to do your writing thing, but I had to go somewhere to do errands and I lost track of the day. They'll be like, oh, okay, that's a very human thing. But if you ignore them, they're like, I wonder if they're just having sex with hookers right now, gambling or something like that. Then they start getting angry, and then that's when you start getting problems. Nothing worse than an angry customer. So communication is 100%. You don't have to jump at every beck and call, but definitely reply to them soon-ish, whenever you can. They will appreciate it, and you'll get a lot of leeway. I have a queue that has a couple of stories that is a little on the late side, but first of all, they're books, 50,000 word books, but second of all, every once in a while, hey, how's that going? And it's I'm on my queue. Sorry, I didn't get to it yet. Do you want me to, jump right to it? And they're like, no, man, it's all right. Just keep going. They're fine with it. And those are, again, good customers. You occasionally get a person I want it now, blah, 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 blah. And then you do the thing for them, and then you just don't return any additional requests that they put in. Because a customer is not worth the headache, unless that's your only customer, then you may want to grin and bear it. But if you start getting full up, especially when you start oh, I have a full queue, then that one customer who's like, what's this? I want this. Give me this. Like, blah, 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 blah. And like, you can just be like, okay. And then here's your thing. Make sure you do the thing. Be professional. Don't just, say whatever. But do the thing and then be like, all right, bye now. Bye, bye, bye. And then they go, oh, can I have another thing? And you go, no, I'm good. No, I'm going to go over here where I don't get a migraine every 3 seconds from your emails. So, and that's kind of reputation on the other end. So I have 5 minutes left. Do we have any questions? I went through a lot of material, but commissioning is a big game, so.
Silver Gato Man, he bought me a coffee. Silver Gato Man, here is the song for thee. He likes to video all the panels at the cons. You should go and watch them whether they are short or long. Silver Gato Man, you video that's not a jibe. All of you go to his YouTube channel and like and subscribe.